A little over 20 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long, but it has. My wife and I got married and we were on our honeymoon in Italy. And this was a really exciting trip, not simply because, we just got married, but because we had never been to Italy before, or really much of anywhere in Europe prior to that. Neither one of us came from families that traveled all that much when we were younger. And we certainly didn't have the funds to be, paying for a trip like this at the time. We got on a plane and landed in just like on an entirely different planet in the best possible way. Now, the reason I'm sharing with you a story about my honeymoon is because there was something that happened on that trip. There was something I heard while there that had a big influence on me. Okay, so here's the story. It's May of 2001, and my wife and I just got married, and we were in Florence, Italy. And we were touring Florence and having a great time in the city, but one of the things that we wanted to do was also get out of the city. We wanted to get out into the rural countryside. We wanted to get out and explore Tuscany. Now, we didn't have a car because we were traveling everywhere by train, as you do in that part of the world, right? So we hired a local tour guide, someone who knew the area well. She picked us up early in the morning. It was like crack of dawn. And the three of us, my wife and I and the tour guide, we just drove all over Tuscany. She just took us everywhere. We went to, lush vineyards. We ate, amazing food. We drank all this incredible wine, and we spent time like exploring these beautiful old, these centuries old Italian towns where everything is built out of rock and stone. It was just fantastic. So at one point during the tour, between destinations, we're like, going from one place to another. We're driving around and we're talking in the car, and she's sharing with us, stories about the local history, about the local culture. And eventually our conversation wandered into the topic of rustic Italian cuisine. We talked about ravioli, about caprese, tortellini, and the local fresh pesto, and loads of cheese, so much cheese and wine. And we were just talking about like how flavorful everything tasted to us, how different everything tasted. And it was then that our tour guide, who was driving the car, she looked at us in the rearview mirror and she asked us a question. She asked, "Do you know the secret ingredient? The ingredient that makes local Italian cuisine so incredible?" Now, I was sitting there and I was thinking, well, the answer is either something, logical like the garlic, or, perhaps something more clever like the soil or the water. But her answer took me by surprise. Simplicity, she said. Each local dish is carefully constructed and balanced so that not only are we tasting the dish itself, but each individual ingredient as well. In other words, we can taste the garlic, the tomato, the pasta, because one ingredient does not overwhelm the other. Each ingredient occupies its own space, and together, when all these ingredients are combined, they create a flavor that is bigger and bolder than the sum of their parts. She then went on to say that their dishes are simple because they don't need to be complex. Brilliant, right? Their local ingredients are so flavorful on their own in their natural organic state that, little, if anything, more is needed. Nothing more needs to be added to the dish. Even though only a few ingredients have been used, those ingredients are so good on their own that nothing more is required. And that was the moment that got me. That was the moment in which I was sitting there in the backseat listening to her talking about rustic Italian cuisine, that something for me just clicked, not because I'm a foodie. Don't get me wrong. I like, good food just as much as anyone else, but because to my ears, she wasn't really talking about food. She was describing the essence of great craft, the secret to creating something that is simple, but not simplistic. And there's a subtle but really important difference between the two. Simple has few ingredients of high value that together form a complete picture. Simple is condensed and powerful. Again, with a food analogy, simple is like a shot of really fine, really sophisticated, high quality espresso. Simplistic, on the other hand, is lacking. Simplistic is an oversimplification. It is either missing key ingredients or the ingredients used are just basic and average. For example, if I were to turn off the camera right now and head down to my local grocery store and buy the exact same type of ingredients that I experienced while in Italy and tried to make the same dish, well, mine would be simplistic. It would be simplistic because not only would the ingredients not be as good, but because, quite frankly, I pretty much suck at cooking, even simple things. But come to think of it, maybe I could be better if I, took the time to learn from a skilled instructor without getting on an airplane and flying all the way back over to Italy. Which brings me to the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Whether you're trying to step up your Italian cooking or learn any specific skill from photography and illustration to graphic design, video editing, personal productivity, or whatever you may be into, Skillshare is the perfect place to find classes that will match your goals and interests. I joined Skillshare because outside of photography, which is my main creative outlet these days, I'm always curious to learn new things from experienced people, including Khalees. You remember the milkshake song from a number of years ago? Well, she demonstrates on Skillshare how to create simple, flavorful sauces that will elevate any dish. Also, best-selling author Roxane Gay, who inspires me to be a better writer and storyteller, and author Greg McCowan, who helps me be more productive and accomplish more by doing less. On Skillshare, there are many more inspiring classes you may take at your own pace, on your own time, around everything else that is going on in your busy life. It is a great place I have found just to, relax, to unwind, and while you're doing that, learn something new and be inspired. All videos are ad-free, and every week there's something new to discover. The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. So because this channel of mine is mostly about photography, I want to connect the dots here, and I want to share with you, how this way of thinking, this experience that I had in Tuscany all those years ago, how it has influenced me creatively, this way of thinking about simplicity and the importance of quality ingredients. When it comes to me and my photography, there are oftentimes images that, I had high hopes for in the field when I created them. And then I got back and I tried to edit them. And no matter what I do, the image does not come together. And I keep thinking if I just keep working on it, that eventually the image is going to appear out of that flat, gray, raw goo of the raw file, right? I'm convinced that if I just keep molding it and shaping it, eventually I'm going to get something out of it. And there's actually one image that is perfect to describe this, and I want to show it to you. This is a straight out of camera landscape raw file that I captured in the Dolomites region of northern Italy just a few years ago. This was not during my honeymoon. It just so happens that my honeymoon story and this photo, they both happened in Italy. So I guess I just like Italy a lot. So anyway, when I got back home and I started editing this image, I was so excited to get into it, start editing this image, because I thought I had something really fantastic here. I thought that I was going to create a great image because I had this beautiful sunset and these beautiful colors and the sky and a great subject and an epic environment, and it has everything going for it. It's the kind of thing that, if you're into landscape photography, it's the kind of thing that you hope for. It's the kind of thing you dream of. But, something kind of unexpected happened. I started editing this image and I started to feel a little bit frustrated with it. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, and because it just wasn't coming together. So I ended up just hitting reset, trying it again, hitting reset, trying it again. I think I edited this image 10, 15 times. I lost count. I've actually never finished this image. I've never fully edited this image because I've never been able to pull an image that I'm happy with out of it. The thing that I now see, looking back at this image, and the thing that I now appreciate is that the ingredients of this image just weren't as good as I thought they were. To my eyes, the problem with this image is the fact that the main subject here, smack dab in the middle of the frame. And by the way, this is a place called Trecime di Lavaredo. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I hope so. I'm sure someone who's Italian can correct me if they would like to. I can't wait to go back here again at some point. But anyway, when I photographed this, the sun had already, kind of dropped behind the mountains back here, and there's no light at all on my main subject. Now, when I took this image at the time, I was of the mindset of like, well, no big deal. I can just bracket my exposure. I can just pull up those shadows, because I have a lot of latitude because I'm shooting raw. You'll probably dodge and burn, some light, more dodging than burning, quite honestly, and, bring some dimension, bring some shape to give the image some depth. But what ended up happening was it just ended up being this dark blob smack dab in the middle of the frame. And in trying to lift those shadows and in trying to equalize the tonal values in the image, it just begins to look rather fake. It begins to look kind of HDR, so to speak. It just doesn't look good. And maybe it would to some people, I don't know. But to me, it's not a look that I like. It's not a look that I like in my photography. I like for my images to look as authentic as I possibly can. I'm not against HDR or compositing or anything like that, if the net result looks real and looks authentic. But this image, it just didn't come together because the ingredients just weren't that great. So when it comes to photography, like, what are those ingredients? Like, what are the simple core ingredients? Like, what is the garlic? What is the tomato? What is the pasta? What is it in photography? Well, at least when it comes to landscape, it's absolutely light, composition, and subject. And in my opinion and experience, like, you can pretty well get away with, like 2 out of 3. Like, you can have, great light and a great subject and so-so composition, and you totally get away with it. Can you get away with, a good light and a good composition, but a so-so subject? Absolutely. I think good light can make any subject, no matter how boring, no matter how drab. If it has good light can make anything look good. The thing, though, that for me that really does not work is when the light is missing. When I just have like subject and composition, which I feel like I have here, if the light's not there, then the image just doesn't work. Like, wherever the light is, follow that. Like, don't get, so stubborn about, capturing a specific thing, like in order to make a trip successful. Instead, go to where the light is going and find something there, because not only will you, at least this is what I tell myself, not only will I perhaps will I create a better image, but maybe I'll find something more original then. Maybe I'll come back with a more, a completely different image that no one's ever seen before. And that is exactly what I did on a recent landscape photography trip to California, which I talked about in a recent video here on my channel, where I broke down a series of images that I created. What I decided to do was to go out and follow the light, to see where the light was going, instead of trying to, capture images in the place that I had planned to be taking images in, which wasn't quite working out. So I decided to venture out and find some other things to photograph. And that was when I ended up taking this image here. This is straight out of camera, raw image here. Like, I just wanted you to see the ingredients. I wanted you to see the raw material that was created, because nothing else has been added here. And I think this is one of those kinds of images that, sometimes, as a photographer, you have, the good luck and the good fortune to be in the right place at the right time and to be facing in the right direction relative to, where the light is, to create an image like this, where, it had this wonderful, Western light that was setting out there in California. Something about the light in California at that time of day. And I was getting all this lovely, soft, like warm light on the side of this building here. And then there's, some blues and some magentas and some purples that are getting into the shadows down here. It's perfectly within the dynamic range of the sensor. Like, I didn't have to bracket this image. The highlights are soft, and the blacks are lifted down at the bottom. Very subtle, very soft contrast. And this is the kind of image that, to bring this back around to what it is that I started this whole video with, talking about simple ingredients. This is the kind of image that it doesn't need to be complex. because it's already complex in its simplicity, because all it really needs is, like a little bit of contrast, maybe a little crop, maybe a little bit of leveling, I don't know, maybe a little bit of, a temperature or a tint adjustment, something like that. But honestly, that's it. Those are the moments I live for. Those are the images that I get most excited about, even though like this building here, this little, this little thing is nowhere near as exotic or epic or whatever as the Dolomites in Italy. It's a better image. That's it for me, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment and give the video a thumbs up down below. And if you would like to do this again and hang out with me again in the future, please remember to subscribe to this channel down below and also click the bell icon if you would like to receive a notification whenever a new video lands here on my channel. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time.